Hello and welcome back to Nerd News Today Toy Fair 2021. And today we're going to be doing our toy collecting in the pandemic panel. We're going to be talking about how COVID-19 has affected the toy industry and our hopes for the new year. And of course, join in the conversation in the comments section and on social media. I'm sure all of us here will be checking that out and be glad to chat with everybody here. But first things first, let's go ahead and do our introductions and meet all of our panelists today.
I'm Michael Crawford. I run mwctoys.com. It's a review site. I've been doing it for 21 years now, and my pronouns are he, him. I love to collect everything. I have everything from cartoon lines to horror lines to Star Trek, Star Wars, Masters of the Universe, all DC, all Marvel. But probably my number one thing is 6 scale. It's the thing I collect. It started me when I was a kid, and it's always been the thing that I've come back to.
I'm Rich. I am the editor-in-chief for RageWorks.net. He, him. I also run the RageWorks podcast network. Started collecting pretty much since I was a kid. And a lot of the stuff that I have is still from when I was a kid up until now. It's a mix of comic stuff, Transformers I got back into heavy recently, Power Rangers, McFarlane got me with the DC stuff again, and Funko Pops for the most part. So I kind of diversified a little bit, and I'm trying to just take some of the stuff that I grew up with, pass it on to my kid, which is the next part of it, just teaching them young, so she knows how to pick out all the Autobots and everything at 2, which is kind of cool. We do pop culture, video games, tech. We've been covering it, podcasting since 2006, and running the site originally as a site for the podcast. And then we just turned it into RageWorks, which is an acronym for Reviews About Gaming, Entertainment, and the Works.
Hi, my name is Loryn Stone. I'm with Toy Wizards. My pronouns are she, her. Toy Wizards is a toy news website where we do brand new pre-order announcements. We discuss collecting in general. I am a toy journalist and a digital content creator, pop culture writer. So it's really cool for me to have this website where I get to showcase my collecting, new, old, 80s, 90s, everything in between, girl figures, Mac Tonight, robots. I love it all. So that's kind of what we do over there, is highlight our collections primarily on the website. And we've been doing YouTube content as well.
Hi, we are Penelope and Justin Daniels, she, her, he, him, from Farpoint Toys Collectibles in Mays Landing, New Jersey. We are a retail store specializing in vintage and new toys, action figures, comic books, video games, pop culture collectibles, everything from retro to right now, as my shirt says. We've been in business about 10 years doing what we do. Since the pandemic started, we've branched out doing a little more online stuff. We've really ramped up our content as far as interacting with our community online. People can't come to the store, so we're bringing the Farpoint experience to them. And podcasts like this help us do that a little bit. Anything you want to add?
We are collectors as well. A lot of people say that once you get into the retail thing aside of it, that you can't really still be a collector, and we are trying our best to prove that wrong. In the midst of trying to prove that wrong, we've added a museum aspect to our store, which is basically our collection. I am a G.I. Joe collector from childhood. That's among other things. And you are a
My Little Pony and Dungeons and Dragons are my 2 main focuses. But we never stopped collecting, and that's part of what we do here at Farpoint, in addition to all the other cool stuff we're doing.
Hey, there I am, Jonathan Alexandratos. Pronouns are they, them. I am a non-binary toy collector, playwright, essayist based in New York City. I write for Loryn. That's one thing I do. I write for Toy Wizards, but I also write for other places as well, Tor.com. I created this, which is articulating the action figure essays on the toys and their messages. It's the first collection of academic essays that's all about action figures and dolls. Despite what you see behind me, I am not a toy seller. I am a toy collector exclusively, and I've just arranged my office like this. As far as toy lines that I like, Loryn, you'll appreciate I have every single Skeleton Warrior. I wanted to tell you that I love Skeleton Warriors. But to get into more mainstream stuff, this is the guy who's giving me hell last night. So I got this beater Megatron, and I spent last night fixing the little peg in there, but finally managed to do it. So huzzah. I mean, it's still as brittle as anything, but it's a little less brittle now. But yeah, I collect everything. There's a bunch of She-Ra's over there. There's a bunch of Barbies over there. There's a bunch of there's a Davy Crockett figure over there for some reason. I'm pointing to all these places. Star Trek, Star Wars, you name it. It's probably here. So it's just, there's a lot of joy in this, as we all know.
I'm Julie Kerwin. My preferred pronouns are she. I am the creator and owner of IAMElemental. We sell female action figures that represent the superpowers that reside inside us all.
And I'm Matthew. I'm he, him. I run Nerd News Today, and you already know that because you've been watching me all weekend. So I think we can go ahead and just jump right into things, folks. And is it me, or does it feel like it's been a super profitable year for toy companies? Because I ended up buying Star Wars figures for the first time in years. I ended up buying way more Marvel Legends than I've ever done before. I got a ton more wrestling figures somehow. I ended up backing the Hero Quest board game from Hasbro. I've heard from a lot of toy companies I've spoken to this weekend that 2020 was their most profitable year ever for a lot of places. So I'm kind of wondering here, what's everyone's thoughts on this topic here? Are there more people buying toys, or are companies just preying on the fact that everybody's staying at home? Or did it just kind of happen to work out this way and just going to be a little bit of happenstance? So throwing this out there to the panel, whoever wants to go ahead and jump on it, feel free to.
Well, just an idea from the Toy Book. I mean, according to the Toy Book, the sort of trade publication for the toy industry, they said that they experienced a dip actually in sales over the course of the sort of year related to the pandemic. They expect to be able to bounce back from that in another couple of years or so, in a major way. But initially, anyway, I think that they were reporting slightly lower profits. Now, it doesn't mean necessarily we haven't bought anything, because we all certainly have. I agree with you. Like I've spent tons, but also like divide that up amongst retailers and like eBay and stuff like that. I don't know. Like, I don't know how much of that actually made it to Hasbro's pocket directly, as opposed to perhaps one of you other panelists.
As far as the secondary market goes, as far as selling, pre-owned toys, obviously retail has taken a huge hit, in-store retail. We were closed for months and months and months, as were most, if not all, secondary market retailers, because there's a captive audience at home, and most people, I don't want to say most, but the lucky people got to keep their jobs and work from home and still make money, and they're not going out and spending it anywhere else. So being able to do online sales and shift to maybe social media sales, those type of sales have gone up for sure, because there's more of an audience for it. People are looking for something to do. They want to spend their money, and they're not going out other places to do it. So the secondary market has done great because of the pandemic. I think, maybe I don't want to generalize for everybody's experience.
Yeah, in online, obviously, capacity.
Not every store could pivot from the retail to the online, but I think the ones that were lucky enough to be able to do it and get on it early and take advantage of the fact that people wanted an outlet to spend their money and still be collectors, it worked out for some stores for sure.
I'd be surprised though if high-end companies, I'd be interested to talk to Hot Toys and Sideshow and Blitzway and some of those other companies about it, at least from a perspective of shipping, because a lot of their product got held up for the first 6 months of the year, right? Everything got closed down. Things were not coming from, the Far East over to America. You weren't seeing a lot of shipments coming in of stuff that was supposed to drop in March, April, May. And so all that got kind of delayed till the end of the year. So I would be surprised if the high-end guys like that really had a great year. I think they kind of got slowed down by this, just like everybody else did, because of the fact that logistics got slowed down across the globe.
I think that one of the things that happened recently, and it's strange that many of you have talking about, there was a dip. There was a piece I got recently. I forgot which trade publication. They said actually that the number of sales have been considered some of the best. And the reasoning behind that is because if you think about it, a lot of kids are home. And the reasoning was that they were saying that parents were looking to overcompensate because you couldn't do birthdays, you couldn't do a lot of those gatherings where there was that. So what they were doing was, which was interesting, is, oh, you want this new Xbox? Hey, you want these new action figures? Well, the money's here because we're not spending it. So there was a lot more disposable income. From a personal standpoint, I'm downsizing a lot of my vintage toys, and I've probably sold more in the last 6 months than I have usually. And it's usually out of the box stuff. Like I sold a T800 Terminator figure from Kenner that I had from when I was a kid that I just found in a toy box. I'm like, nobody's going to buy this. And within a day it's sold. I think that what's happening is there's so many of us that are home that we're not spending money on crap. So we're kind of funneling that money into our passion projects or into stuff that we're into. I mean, a few of you may be able to elaborate on this, but how many of you have done work in your house that you've been putting off forever? Or how many of you have started that one project related to toys? It's just easier to do now just because we have more disposable time. And to the point of some of the panelists, some of us are working from home, and it's just easier to manage now. It's like, hey, you have a Zoom meeting at 10 and you have downtime till 1. Oh, let me start working on this model kit, or let me put some stuff on eBay. So it's a weird time, but I also think it's a good time for toys, because I think that we're showcasing so much more because we're home, so we can show collections, we can be more active in our respective communities. So it's a gift and a curse to some degree.
One of the companies that I think you could definitely see has had a great year is Lego, and I'm positive that that's exactly what Rich was saying. Parents buying up for their kids, giving their kids something to do while they're sitting at home and not able to go to school. So yeah, if you could find a good Lego set at a Target in November, you were damn lucky.
Piggybacking on to everyone else's point, yes, we're at home, there's less to do. Rich, you brought up a point about people buying things for their kids. To be honest with you, as a toy journalist and keeping my finger to the pulse of collectibles, I think people are buying outdoor toys for their kids. When I think of the toy industry and profiting, it's all the adult collectors market, and it's all people fighting over GI Joes and NECA, and that's all it's been, man. It's been GI Joes and NECAs, and Walmart has Motu, you bastards, and now they don't have Motu exclusively anymore. So I mean, yes, we have time, we have more disposable income, and I don't think kids are getting any trickle of this except for, here's a new jump rope, go outside and play. This is something we talk about all the time on Toy Wizards, which is basically the secondary market. We don't have to get into this topic too deeply right now, but secondary market resellers, I think the average reseller who, as you guys over there at Farpoint said, if you have not been able to pivot over to an online model, then you've lost tons of money not selling at conventions. So there's a lot happening here, but I think it's all in the adult collectors market for sure, from what I've seen over the last year.
I totally agree with the adult collector aspect of it. Maybe they're lying to their wives and saying, if it's men, that they're buying it for their kids, but believe me, all those guys in the toy aisles are buying them for themselves. The thing is, nostalgia right now is at such a fever pitch.
I think part of that is because people are so upset right now about what's happening. They want that comfort of that nostalgia. At least that's my opinion.
I think you're right.
And then shows like the Toys That Made Us, and everything. There's a cycle, and right now we're in the height. Maybe not the height. Maybe it's going to keep going because it's been happening for a few years now. Where if you go into Walmart and look at the toys on the shelves, you just mentioned, Loryn, the Masters Universe, G1 Transformers, Kenner Ghostbusters, everything that we grew up with has come back around now, and all those adults are going to collect those toys again, and that's really helped the secondary market as well. When I say secondary market in this way, I mean vintage toys, because they didn't want to revisit the vintage. So nostalgia is driving so much of this, and nostalgia, as everybody else said, coupled with time on everyone's hands.
Well, kids are also learning the flip game also, which is what I wanted to add. So, if a great example, I went to Target 2 weeks ago in the morning, and I get there and it's kids with their moms and their dads waiting for cases of toys to be opened up. And it's three things: toys, Pokemon cards, and sports cards. Because what's happening is a lot of kids, again, parents are using this to teach lessons. Hey, you want to make a couple extra bucks, you want to do this, or you're bored, here's some toys, you could sell them. It's the same thing with the sneaker game. Like, I'm a big sneaker person, and the sneaker game is the same way. When I go to buy a pair of sneakers, or I wake up to go to a sneaker drop, it's kids that are getting into it, and that's what's happening. I think that it's a thing where we're kind of passing it on, and kids are also watching a lot of our content, whether it's, following, I'll use Toy Wizards or Farpoint, they're like, wow, these people are making money doing this stuff. Why can't I? And I think
That's how we got into it. I mean,
right, it's a pendulum shift. I think it's a matter of segmenting it into ages, to Lauren's point. Like, yeah, if you got a 6 or 7-year-old kid, you're probably buying them a jump rope. But when you're talking about 12, 13, 14, you kind of want to make some money. You want to do something cool. Hey, I grew up with these Marvel Legends. They're bringing them out. You could resell this guy for like $50. And kids like that, because especially if they're into something else, they can use those profits to fund another habit. It's like take the drugs to buy more drugs.
in my experience, and I wish when I was going into Walmart or Target, Toys R Us, or rest in peace, that it was kids. But when I go in the aisle, everyone looks like me. So
yeah, I've literally never seen a kid in the toy aisle.
I wish. I mean, I believe you. I'm sure there are kids that are hip and that are doing it, but
older,
honestly, it's
older kids though, not to your point, just
yeah.
older, like 15, 16, 17 that are kind of getting hip to it. Young kids are just, pointing at stuff and asking for their parents to buy it. But older kids definitely are getting in the flip game, because the sneaker market is saturated. The trading card market is saturated. So kids want to take some stuff and make a little money.
I actually, anecdotally, I do know a 7th grader who has been a Lego fan his whole life, but his parents were telling me that he's recently shifted. They've been very surprised because he's shifted into this new philosophy of flipping. He's trying to buy Lego sets that are more, less available and things like that, for the purpose of selling them on eBay. And so it's a complete, he used to just be a builder. Now he is a flipper.
That's a smart kid, because Lego are definitely, they're one of the few toys that you can actually invest in and you almost always make money off of.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell his parents that.
Julie, actually, I want to throw a question your way, since you're the manufacturer that we have among us. You're the toy maker here. I know that toy makers were hit very hard last year, and that was the big discussion at New York Toy Fair 2020. Was everybody was talking about how is COVID going to hit us? And at that point, it feels like the toy industry was probably one of the first industries to really be hit hard by it. We heard there's a lot of manufacturing slowdowns, all that sort of thing. So maybe you could talk about how internally how manufacturers were affected by this, and what effects you think we're continuing to feel now a year later.
Well, I don't know that I can speak to anyone else's experience, but we didn't do a single production run in 2020 because of COVID. And I was just on the phone yesterday, actually, with Alibaba has reached out to me, and it was a really interesting conversation. So a week from now, I'll be able to tell you, because I have an outreach to my factory to say, okay, what's going on? What can we do? And to see what 2021 will bring. But for us, it's been interesting, because the primary audience that I have had for 5 years has been collectors. And it was an interesting, somewhat slight shift this year toward the parents buying for their kids. And I can't, Loryn, I can't explain it. I can't attest to why that happened. Our marketing hasn't shifted in any way. Our audience, in terms of my social media, has not shifted in any way. We've had a few odd pockets in certain states that led me to believe that it was, just word of mouth. But ever so slightly, it trended toward kids over collectors, which has been surprising, because that my collector market is my strongest market. And then as far as factories go, I really can't speak to it, because I'm waiting to hear back from my factory to see what we can do in 2021. But we went absolutely quiet in 2020, and obviously by design, because of COVID. There was no sense of how long this was going to take to get out of it, and I couldn't commit to bringing in a tremendous amount of new product when I didn't know where the world was headed.
That's an important point to note too, is that amount of product, that amount of supply and demand. And I think as well, 2020, and of course going into 2020 as well, there's been a lot of shortage issues. There's been a lot of figures, especially, and we're talking about the adult collectors here, but even kids buying toys and video games too. There's been definitely a shortage of action figures. For me, getting AEW figures from Wicked Cool Toys, have never seen a single one of them on shelves to this day. I've yet to see a Mandalorian figure on a Target shelf anywhere. So there's a lot of issues there. And this, of course, does go back into flippers and scalpers. This is kind of a two-way question here. But yeah, let's kind of spend some time discussing the issues of distribution this year, how toy companies kind of missed the boat, And who's really to blame here? Is it the toy companies not making enough supply to meet the demand? Or is it that there's just way too many flippers and scalpers now?
I mean, I'm still waiting like for a really good explanation on the logic behind ordering a case like of those Target Mandalorian figures, 6 of them. I think that anybody in touch with the toy market could tell you that like, 7 of them might sell, 8 of them might sell. So why not just take the risk on a second case? I'm not saying go crazy. I'm not saying like order thousands, but like maybe 2, maybe 3 cases. Because that was the thing at my Target, right? The Grogu and Din Djarin 2-packs with the removable helmet. They had literally 6 of them. I was there at 7 a.m. to get one, and the website all like booted them out of people's carts and all that stuff. Pre-orders got canceled and all that jazz. And so like, what's going on?
Is it forethought? Not to have a tinfoil hat on my head, but is Target thinking, okay, if there's such a demand for these figures, Target, for example, if there's such a demand for these figures and there's not enough for the people that are showing up, who thought that people were going to be lining up in the morning at Targets to open, first of all, but people are going to come there every day looking for these figures, and maybe they'll buy a gallon of milk. Maybe they'll get a pair of pants.
Yep.
Is there some forethought there that they want the demand to keep people coming back?
Pretty
Yeah.
I
much
don't know,
lost
because it just
leaders.
makes people mad, and then they don't like us. We're not going looking for GI Joes anymore because they're just not there.
And to caveat that, I'm a collector of the
Yes.
classified
Not
line.
not to flip.
We do not buy off the shelves and sell in our store. I don't promote, or I'm not behind scalping at all, because I came into this as a collector. I can't knock the hustle of people doing it, but in good conscience, I can't pay $20. Somebody who pays $20 for a figure and then is asking $200, which is what's happening with GI Joe Classified, is ridiculous. If you want to buy it for 20 and maybe 30 to cover gas and your time, I understand that. But the real problem, if we want to get to the root, in my estimation of the scalper problem, isn't the scalpers. It's a free market. They can do what they want. It's the enablers. It's the people who can't not have that figure and are going to spend 20 times the amount of what that figure is worth, inflating the value of a figure that's not worth that at all.
And that's absolutely true. That's scalpers. It's not like this is a new thing. In 1995, as a matter of fact, I think it's funny that we're having this conversation, because you could have gone to the store in 1995 and gone to Target at 8 a.m. and there were 6 guys standing outside Target. Right? I mean, this isn't new, and it was really bad back then. You could barely find a Star Wars figure to save your life at a retail location.
Yep.
But it's the enablers. It's people who feed it, right? Who feed the scalpers and can't wait or can't have a grail for a while. There's stuff I buy that I am never going to get all of it. It's just not going to happen. And I'm a completist. I'm an obsessive compulsive completist.
Right there with you.
I actually, on Facebook, I've been doing this post once a week that I call, mamas don't let your babies grow up to be completists. And then I take something from some line, often Mattel or Palisades, and point out how, look, they did this 12 times. This is the same freaking figure, and I've got 12 of them because they made these minor changes. So I'm an obsessive compulsive completist. But I still can accept the fact that, there's going to be some things that is going to take me a while to get, and I don't have to have it the first month it's out. And I think people have to start doing that, or they're not going to be able to stop the scalping. People are going to scalp as long as there's money in it.
Can I also, I don't know that this is true, but to Jonathan, when you say maybe they should be buying a second, carton, sometimes I do wonder, I'm on other boards and other, people who are buying for their shops and things. And a lot of times I will hear complaints that the company won't allow them to purchase more than a certain amount of product, or they'll just redirect it and not ship it. So we also have to wonder sometimes where the origin is in terms of the restriction. It may not necessarily be Target itself. It may be, the manufacturer who's creating the product, and they're trying to generate that craze, because like I said, I don't work at Target, so I don't know, but I 100% know from speaking with independent toy stores and owners and things like that, that they are often left without their order. So
That's a great point, and it's kind of taking a page from Nintendo's book, where they would create a craze because things were short shipped or there wasn't just not enough to supply the demand.
It's manufactured hype in a lot of instances too, by going and saying, hey, this is going to be limited. It may not be limited, but as soon as people hear the word limited, to everyone's point, the scalper starts salivating and they go, well, I'll go in and buy 3 of them, sell 2, keep 1, buy 5, flip 4. It varies from market to market. I mean, I'm in a few toy groups on Facebook, and now a lot of guys will come in, Transformers now especially, and they'll come in trying to have some ridiculous price, and they'll be like, well, this is what people are paying for it on eBay. And then the people in the group will get mad and say, well, go sell it on eBay then. The problem is that if people don't speak with their wallets, to everyone's point, you're gonna enable that habit. And at the end of the day, I've bought stuff sometimes to flip, and I'll buy 1 and 1, and either I'll make a profit on it or I don't. But the problem is that they're buying the entire shelf. And that's what I think aggravates so many of us. Like, listen, we're all in this to make a couple of extra shekels on the side. I get it. But if there's 9 of them on the shelf, you don't need all 9. You don't. Just take 2,
My point to that too is our stores responsible for this. And we're talking about the big chain stores like Targets, like Walmart's.
Well,
and we saw a few Targets were limiting some things here and there, but should these big stores be limiting the stuff more? Or is it just that they're so into their bottom line, and especially with the way things are in the world right now, they just don't care. And they know this is easy money for them.
They don't care. As long as they're selling it, they don't care who it's to. They don't care if it's to their own employees out the back door. They don't care who's getting it. As long as they're getting their ching, they don't care. And it might come down to maybe that person will get a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk. But at the end of the day, they're making their money, they're selling their product, and they don't care if there's a 5-year-old in the aisle crying because he can't get a GI Joe.
Nor should they. It's a capitalist society. We shouldn't be telling a retailer how they can sell their wares. It's, it puts a bad taste in my mouth that it happens, but what's the other side of that, and how far does that go? That's a very deep hole.
I don't think limits would be a bad thing. I mean, we're talking about the pandemic as well. If I go into Walmart and I need hand sanitizer, I can only buy 1.
Yeah, but you need hand sanitizer. You don't need Dinjarin.
Well, that depends on
I don't
who
know
you
about that. No, you're right. You're right.
To your point, it's funny because if any of you are on TikTok or Instagram, sometimes employees will share, like there's actually a 1 sheet now that says, hey, this is being sought after by the secondary market. Please be aware, limit X. I've seen it on Pokemon cards. It's usually there's a thing at the register. It was happening with, PlayStation and Xbox consoles. And recently it happened with the G.I. Joe Cobra Island stuff.
Of course.
Because it just got ridiculous. And I remember seeing it in the Target register, and it was like, and it had just a photo of the Baroness motorcycle, and it was like in big letters, limit 1.
Yeah, well, they say that, and then now because of the hype and because of the value, employees themselves, they're not even hitting the shelves. Employees themselves, and who can knock it? It's a kid making $15 an hour, or he could sell this thing, buy it at his store discount, and sell it on eBay for $150. I would do it if I worked there.
Yeah, I mean, to Julie's point earlier, I agree with you, Julie. Like, I think that more transparency about what this chain really looks like is something that's totally needed. And to Michael's point earlier, yeah, like I always laugh at the 90s, like toy fairs or whatever. They're like, all these people are just looking for the orange carded Power of the Force 2 figures. And it's like, oh my God, seriously. But so you never know what down the line is going to be in the dollar bin. But I think that I am very reluctant to put too much blame on the littlest rung on this ladder. Like, I think that the billionaires at the top of these corporations can probably like figure out something that, while not violating the sort of laws of capitalism or whatever, can actually create something that's a little bit more equitable than what we have, while maintaining their own profits. I mean, 2020 felt like a weird sort of year for scarcity, obviously because of the scarcity on the need side, but also like there was that weird network thing, or whatever whatever that was that you
Yes.
reported on, Loryn,
Yes.
where it was like, hey, we have these exclusive Cobras. And it's like, no, we don't. We don't even
No,
really
no, we
have
don't.
Cobras.
Oh, that was the absolute best story. And that's the kind of things that, are happening right now. And specifically with 2020, I feel like there's so much contradictory action and hypocrisy in toy collecting, and it's very, very, very unfortunate. There's the fine lines blurred between the realities of distribution and what we speculate. There's things that are happening with scalping and reselling, and then using them with the capital S and the capital R and making it a boogeyman. There's all these gray lines that we don't know. And this is something we talk about on Toy Wizards and some of our video content, which is that the internet has made it that we all feel very, very close to each other. And so we all think what's happening at your Target and Walmart are the same thing happening at my Target and Walmart, when the fact is, it's like you might literally be the only nerd in your small town and no one else wants this. So, how do we do things if we're limiting product to one? Do we do that in every store where like really nobody is going to buy these? Like let's look at my Walgreens, for example. I live in a suburb outside of Los Angeles, and at my Walgreens, I'm the only one who wants the Power Ranger toys, and I'm the only one who wants the Diamond Select Avatar toys. So one day when they first brought those Avatar toys, I cleared the shelves. They got excited. They restocked the shelves. They're like, oh my God, these are selling. No one's bought them since. It was me. It was me. I was the only one. So, so it's just one of those things where it's a really, and people showing off their collections online, and like we see this and we see the value of that. And again, we're generating a buzz, but at the same time, then we're saying, well, it's no one's business how someone else collects, which is what I sincerely believe. And if we don't have people clearing, buying large stock, how are we in 5, 10, 15 years going to find our grail item in some random, convention on a table or in a small mom and pop toy shop? So are we upset about reselling scalping today because we all want the item? Or are we upset about it in 20 years when, oh my God, somebody held on to this vintage item for me? It's a hard conversation. I don't have the answer right now, but that's where we are in a lot of our content. And that's a conversation we open up often and get yelled at in the comments, and that's all cool. But
Well, one thing we haven't talked about yet, and Loryn, you guys talked about this on Toy Wizards, and we need to talk about this, of course, NECA and TMNT. This has been a terrible year for NECA and their distribution. I think they've been like one of the worst culprits for the issues we're discussing today and causing this artificial inflation in the market. So Loryn, actually, let's start with you, since you guys, like I said, covered it. NECA, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, what went wrong? Has anything gone right?
which Ninja Turtle line specifically? For the
All.
movie let's start with the movie Turtles, which have been reissued 4 times. But they keep reissuing them in different packaging. So we had the San Diego Comic-Con 4-pack. Then they were suddenly in single packs. Then they were suddenly in 2-packs. And then there was Casey Jones. And so I know that some of those, like the Raphael and the trench coat and stuff like that, were like Walmart exclusives. But we didn't even know that NECA had a deal with Walmart, because they didn't, because they were Target and Amazon. And suddenly now they have these Walmart packs, which I don't think I ever saw them hit shelves at Walmart. We had a huge problem with NECA and TMNT with bots buying up product. There's some websites like Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth who, because they sell these collectibles, already have these limits. That's not to say that any bots didn't buy the product, but it's saying that at least it's limited. People can get around it. They can have multiple accounts. Like, that's not the conversation we're having, but it's definitely a higher effort than just like a bot went to the purchasing page, cleared stock, it's over. Even with the Toonie Terror line, which is a NECA line that I'm super, super fond of, online for pre-orders, everybody was only selling wave 4 altogether. So I paid a little extra to just get Beetlejuice. Lo and behold, he's suddenly on the shelf for $13 everywhere. And I didn't think that, for some reason, I didn't think that one was going to hit the shelf. So I backed myself into the corner that we're all talking about right now that we shouldn't do. So now what?
And Michael, also, I want to direct this towards your way too, because you're collecting a lot of high-end things like premium stuff from Sideshow, from Hot Toys. How have you seen the market change during the pandemic for what you're collecting?
Well, first off, I wanted to say something about NECA, because, one of the things, this gets kind of the Loryn statement about earlier about your target and might not be my target in my area. I have no trouble finding at least the cartoon TMNT at Target almost any time.
And where do you live exactly? Just ask. I'm just curious.
And I'm in Ann Arbor, where you've got all the U of M students. So, but I also know that one of the things they did that I think was really smart about, 2 years ago now, when they started their Target Ambassador program, where you can be a Target Ambassador for NECA and go to the store, take a photo once a week of their product on the shelf. They ask you to clean it up a little first, right? So they get you to do a little effort, make sure everything's neat on the shelf for them. And then they can actually see, because that helps. NECA is a small company when it comes to somebody like Target or Walmart, right? Walmart's going to do whatever they want to NECA, and they're going to have to live with it. And so for them being able to do something like that, I think that was a really smart move on their part. And it really gave them a better window into what's actually going on in individual Targets on the shelves, instead of just getting numbers from corporate.
See, and that's where I have to like jump in and say, I think it's smart in terms of free labor. So from an economic standpoint, the Target Ambassador program was brilliant. But in terms of taking advantage of your fanboys who are so dedicated to NECA, I thought the Target Ambassador program was mean. Like, I didn't like it.
And they're taking advantage of you, but we're looking at ways, how can we help with the situation? Right? I mean, isn't it helping NECA to get distribution of their product into the store that we want to buy?
How about you send a professional from like the way Coca-Cola sends it to the market and goes, okay, how does our store map look today?
Because NECA is not Coca-Cola. I mean, Randy Falk, it's just,
I love Randy. No,
these huge corporations.
They're bigger than they want you to believe. And I love Randy, and I've interviewed him, and we're like, metalheads, and we've like fist bump. It's all good. It's nothing personal, but no, I don't think NECA is the small company they want you to believe they are. They have several subsidiaries. They're always buying new ones. I just think they can send someone over to Target instead of saying, hey, dedicated NECA fans, here's a Twinkie. If you go over to the NECA section and make sure it's pretty, you might be eligible
Did someone
to
say
potentially
A really big
you might be eligible to get like a Target gift card for making sure that our stuff's pretty. And it's like, if it's supposed to help with distribution, go send your employee. They'll have better data. That's just how I feel.
It reminds me a lot of like the secret shopper program that exists in the world. There should be like, if they don't want to pay their own employees to come out and be vendors, they should set up some sort of more official system to facilitate it in a better way, aside from just here's a Twinkie.
It could be a carrot, but nobody wants that.
I like secret shopper programs. I think that's a great approach. I mean, if you're going to take your fans and make them your ambassadors, at least make sure that the juice is worth the squeeze. Like if you're going to go and you're going to tell me, hey, go to this store and take a picture of my shelf, there should be some mutual investment in there. So, hey, if you become a secret shopper for us once a month, you'll get one toy. Like there needs to be something other than, hey, you're a fan and you love our stuff, go and do this. Because don't get me wrong, it's fine, but the Joker said it best: if you're good at something, don't do it for free. And I think that that's the problem. I think that they just figure, oh, you guys love our product so much, you'll go and you'll organize the shelves and you'll do the thing. Get out of here.
I'll take Jeffrey bucks.
That's what I mean. Bucks. Like there's got to be something. There's got to be some sort of incentive that makes it worthwhile. Number one, it creates better engagement, genuine engagement, and people, they see something in the long run. Like, hey, if you visit 5 Targets as a secret shopper and you send us reporting on the shelves and whatnot, you'll get an extra tiered toy or whatever, and make it meaningful. Sending them there just because they're quote unquote a fan and preying on that is very disingenuous. And I think that's what pisses a lot of people off. Because then they go, why am I going to go and do this for you when I can just go see what's there, buy it for myself, and then maybe I'll tell you, maybe I won't.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the thing is nobody really has figured out how to cope with the loss of Toys R Us. Like not even True Kids has figured it out because they just closed both their stores in the US. Yeah, the Paramus one's gone now too. So
all right.
We're here again,
Nobody wants bougie. Yeah, no one wants bougie boutique Melissa and Doug.
Yeah, nobody wants to buy it from Target or Amazon in the clothing of a Toys R Us. Exactly. Like, so for a store that is also selling you, chicken cutlets, I don't know like how much, you're really going to put into all this. Like it's, your profit margins are found elsewhere.
I also, as a manufacturer, I will not share which figure it was, but we did underproduce a figure. I thought it was I mean, I'm new to the game. I thought it was clever to make something a little more, inaccessible, and it has really bit me on the ass because, I'm low on that product, and I could use it. I mean, as far as manufacturing goes. But the only other thing I did want to point out is, despite my decision to underproduce the figure, I did not expect it to be one of the more popular figures when we were making the plan, let's say. And so sometimes I do think that you as collectors surprise the manufacturer. Like despite the fact that obviously the goal is always to have collectors desiring the full set or whatever, sometimes a product takes off in a way they don't expect, or the interest is higher or not. I mean, like Loryn said, they Walgreens brought it all in, and it's just going to sit there now. So there's a certain guessing game that we're playing as manufacturers as well, that can sometimes lead to the appearance of inaccessibility or frustration that maybe wasn't intended on the front end.
Yeah, the secondary market picks that up and it artificially inflates it because they see that it's rare, and that creates want. Even if the person doesn't, even if there's not enough people that really want that item, because they see it's rare and because people are asking a certain price for it, they think it's going to be rare. It just creates this whole, it's like the stock market. It's kind of ridiculous.
Same thing happens with short backs, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Short back. It's the same kind of a limited edition.
Yeah.
But I really thought that I was being kind of clever by doing this because, again, I'm not a big boy. I'm like starting out. But I think that probably if I had it to do over again, I make rookie mistakes. If I had to do over again, I wouldn't have done that because from a production standpoint, from a distribution standpoint, it hasn't really benefited me.
I think another part of this equation too that we haven't discussed quite yet is that there's no conventions. There has not been any conventions, or really any big conventions, especially since really the end of 2019. Some of things have gotten canceled last year. There's going to be a ton more canceled this year, and I think that's also been quite a reason for the cause of more inflated prices on that secondary market. Because really, you can go to a con and you wouldn't be paying that much. You'd pay a little bit more for something, but you wouldn't pay these crazy inflated prices here. So, how much do you think conventions have played into this? And more importantly, also, when do you think cons are going to actually be able to safely come back?
Once people start getting vaccines, I think I personally, I'll feel much safer once I get my shots, depending on how quickly they can get the vaccine into people and what that looks like over the summer. I think once people start feeling safe, just to jump a little bit ahead, that there's going to be a new boom with conventions because people cannot wait to get out and interact and do these things. It's just the fact of feeling safe. So really, it all depends on how much vaccine they can get into people and how soon they can do it. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, Fauci has been saying like fall for some of the big stuff. I don't know. I mean, I think that like I agree. Like a lot of people are kind of itching to go back there, and I think that that's important. And I hope it boosts a lot of sellers who really deserve that boost. And I hope they can get into those with like relatively low table fees as well. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like the way in which we do conventions might have to shift a little bit because I mean, I always get sick after I go to a convention. Now there's like the possibility that could be some new COVID thing. Like, I'm going to be a little bit like thinking about that. But that being said, yeah, like I hope that we think about ways in which conventions can work even better for people because I think a lot of people are excited to get back there.
I think one of the things that could be interesting is the way, are we going to see a shift with some of the panels? Because I think the big cons like Comic-Con figured out that the panels actually worked this last July. You could actually get news at the companies doing the panels, right? Like a Warner Brothers or NECA themselves. Anybody like that who's trying to get news out figured out that, you know what, we could do a panel and get the same news out to more people because they can actually watch the panel when they want to and how they want to. Are we going to start to see more of a mix of that with conventions going forward? Are they going to start to do more stuff online for people who can't attend? And has that caused a change in how people will view some of the aspects of a convention?
Yeah, I mean, so I used to co-run a part of Denver Comic Con, which then became Denver Pop Culture Con, and the things that I kind of learned there is like you are doing your convention, but you're so at the will of your convention center. So like that convention center is like also itching to have its like boat shows and gun shows and all that stuff. And so you're basically getting kind of whenever they tell you you're getting, you know, and I think that I hope that we see a return of like the Holiday Inn show, or like the, you know, I miss that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one nostalgic for that, but like
No.
I want to go to a Days Inn and
Yeah.
discover somebody selling toys in that conference room.
Yep.
No,
Those are
and
my
you-
favorite things. Small cons are always the best.
And going into that, yeah, I mean, one of the things that I do, I am in the convention organizing sphere. I own several small shows. I'm the media director of Power Morphicon alongside my business partner, Scott Zillner, who owns the show. And, you know, the convention sphere and climate is a big conversation. And I definitely agree that there's going to be aspects of it like panels and seminars that will be able to have that hybrid model. And Jonathan's completely correct. Con crud is a real thing. And people always talked about it like it was cute. I mean, I've fortunately never got sick at a convention, but everybody, you know, goes and they're like, came back with the con crud. That's not cute. Like, we don't need to do that. So hopefully it teaches more people to have better hygiene. Don't go to a show when you're sick. And for other people, yeah, we can have this hybrid model. I know that the independent toy seller is going to thrive at conventions again. And that's really where I'm itching to see that come back. But again, to Jonathan's point, it's the small hotel shows that we're going to see coming back first. The shows that have maybe a total of 1,000 people for a single day event, or 2,000, 3,000 if it's a, you know, weekend show, because that's the ones that's going to be safest right now. For hotel, like none of my hotels will allow me to have my shows because of the county, and the convention centers I'm talking to are like, yes, you can feasibly throw your show tomorrow, but you can only have 50 people attend. And we're going to charge you full price and not give you the extra ballroom so you can social distance. So enjoy your convention. I'm like, I can't throw this show. You know, we've been postponing Power Morphicon, and many people understand that, yes, one, we all need to get vaccinated. But the second is that we cannot actually throw this show if it's a 10,000 attendee show and they're telling us that we can have up to 50 people in the hall. Like, it cannot happen. And I think it's a lot of where people just don't understand the logistics of this world.
Loryn, I think you're talking data and like fact, and I think you're 100% right. As I'm in New York and my kid is still not, he's sitting at the dining room table for school. So the idea that they're going to have thousands of people in the Javits Center anytime soon seems unbelievable to me. You know, they were supposedly going to have Toy Fair and in the spring, and I knew there was no way in the world. I couldn't even believe they were thinking about it based on what I know about living here in the city and what's going on. So
absolutely. And my daughter's doing kindergarten at the dining room table too.
Exactly.
Solidarity, I get it.
But I also think, Loryn, your point is the bigger one, and a huge one from a socioeconomic point of view. You cannot afford to run a con with 50% attendance. And, Cuomo was like, oh, we're going to let New York open restaurants at 25%. So, right now. So I think that it's actually, as much as it pains me to say this, much further off in the distance than people really want to admit.
And if you can have one of those small shows, again, if you want a hotel show where a small expo hall costs $1,500 to rent, and your total attendees for the day is 100 or 200 safely, yes, you will not lose money. If we're talking logistically and we all have the love of the fandom. It's so difficult to talk about the organizing of these things without sounding like we don't love toy collecting or pop culture or whatever our show leans into. But we can't owe money so that 25 people had a good time. You like do a meetup outside on your own at that rate. Just go meet up with fans and read some comic books and high five, or toe tap, because high fiving is not good right now.
I think that that what happened with the pandemic is that we have seen a lot of inefficiencies across the board be made obvious now. Many of us, whether you were a 9-to-5er or not, oh, you can't work virtually, it's impossible. Oh, you can't work from home. How are we going to know that you work? Well, logic, circumstances have dictated that now you're working from home. and now your bosses are, taking it in good faith that you're getting your work done, whether you're taking 8 hours to do it or 4 hours to do it or 12 hours to do it. At the end of the day, the work is being done. And I think that when it comes to conventions, that's one of those inefficiencies that needs to be acknowledged. I mean, Loryn mentioned it, Julie mentioned it as well. It becomes a hygiene issue, a distancing issue, a vendor issue. Right now, Julie, I'm in New York as well. When I heard, hey, we're going to open up the Javits, I said, on what planet have you seen New York Comic Con at the Javits?
It's a COVID
amount
hospital.
Of people. Exactly. I mean, it was a COVID hospital. That's a side. That's a big elephant in the room. But the fact is that the inefficiencies of conventions, they're going to need to be rethought. And I think, to what Michael was saying earlier, it's like, maybe we need to view things a little differently. Maybe you want to avoid having the big Hall H panels when you start up San Diego again. Because think about it, if you start up San Diego again, yes, we want to presume everyone is vaccinated, but it's like I tell people all the time, just because I can get over a cold doesn't mean I want it. It's like you want to presume positive intent that everyone is vaccinated and everything, but I think we're not going to get a Hall H type of an environment or the big crowds of New York Comic Con for at least another year removed from when things start back up. Let's play devil's advocate. If let's say we start with the end of 2021, you're not going to see old school big crowd cons till 2022 maybe, or 2023 the latest. And I think that organizers need to accept that. And to Loryn's point, maybe smaller shows are going to be the name of the game, because I feel that that's how you're going to be able to control a crowd better. You really think that if you tell people at New York Comic Con, hey, you guys got to wear masks, everyone's going to wear them, much less wear them right, much less follow instructions? It's easier to control a crowd of 1,000 when you go, hey, listen, first con back, we're doing it at this small venue, 1,000 people a day. You got to wear masks. You don't wear them, you got to leave, at least initially. And that's the problem. People just don't want to, not everybody wants to play by the rules. Everybody misses their stuff, but not everybody wants to play by the rules. Then they complain. You can't have all of it.
I love hearing my fellow New Yorkers upset with the chin guards, like in the I know everybody's going through this, but
It's
I'm also in New York, and
yeah, you all of you know the deal, and I don't have to tell you. It's like, listen, you got to wear the mask to go into a place, not around your chin, not around your eyelids, not like
That's not just a New York issue, just so you know.
Right.
I know.
But I'm just citing it because there's such a bigger congestion of people here. Wear what you got to do, go in, get your crap, and get out. And then don't go on the internet and complain, I wish I could go to the movies. But then you're arguing with the security guard that won't let you into the store because he says you're not wearing your mask right.
Listen, not to open this can of worms, but because COVID got politicized early, there's a huge contingent of people that just don't want to do the right thing.
Yep.
And you guys see it in the city, I'm sure, because there's so many more people, but it is everywhere.
Yep.
It's permeated our entire society, and
Yep.
it's a shame, because we would probably be in a slightly different place. I don't want to go down that political road.
No, of course not.
But we'd be in I wouldn't say much better place, but there'd be significant difference, and there'd be a little more light at the end of the tunnel.
Yep.
And Michael, what's it like in Michigan? Is there a similar issue going on there?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they want to kidnap their.
I'm sorry. They tried to kidnap the governor. What do you think?
I don't want to go there, but since we're going there, I mean,
we got. I have a Black Lives Matter T-shirt that I wear to the store, and it's funny because I always get lots of. Nobody's ever said anything to me, but I get a lot of looks.
So this panel is comprised of a lot of toy journalists. We've got a toy maker. We have a toy store as well. So how have you guys adapted your businesses, and how have you adapted, more importantly, your personal shopping trends? And, speaking for myself, with stores being near impossible for me to find anything, and with Target, Walmart, places like that who have a lot of exclusives being even more somehow impossible to find toys, I've done a lot more Facebook groups, and I've had to enter a lot of raffles. That's been a big thing I've seen a lot of folks do, is more raffles, more events, as they call them. And that's been my way to attempt to get things. And it's basically like, again, kind of unofficial gambling. But, how have you guys changed what you're doing to shop and to also keep your businesses going?
Matt, you said it best. Online, pivoting online. So we've always been online. Just not the Farpoint experience is something you have to come and see in person. So we've always had an online presence, but it's never been what it is now. We were closed on March 22nd last year, and the first thing we started doing is Facebook Live sales. But we didn't want to be, if you guys have ever seen these live claim sales on Facebook, we didn't want to be those like very typical, okay, I'm going to sell you this coffee mug. I guess it's like $5. We didn't want to be like that. We wanted to have some personality. So we kind of made it fun. We themed it like post-apocalyptic and kind of had fun with it. And we ran with it. And it thank God we did it, because it really, it let us bring the Farpoint experience to people at home. And it actually set us up for another great catastrophe that happened to us last year. In June, we had a fire here in the store 2 weeks before we were supposed to be able to reopen. A storm came through and dropped the power line, and we had a pretty serious fire here. And not being able to reopen like everybody else, but having that, I don't want to call it a crutch, but that tool set that we had learned because of the pandemic, it allowed us to keep going through other stores and other places, being able to reopen on a limited basis.
And learning that, adding
Yeah.
these tools to our, we're still not open.
Yeah.
So adding these social media tools, and because we're small enough to be light on our feet, to be able to shuck and jive and, change times and let's try this, let's do this. We've added that tool to our tool set, and it's going to have made us, this whole pandemic is going to have made us a better business at the end, for sure. We added another leg to our table, because, we're more stable once we are able to reopen. Bringing the experience, because the in-store thing is an experience. You come to these stores not only to buy the things on the shelves, but to experience, talk to the owners, the commiserate with other collectors that might be in the store.
It's a communal thing.
Yeah.
It's not just coming in, like you said, we're not running into Target and grabbing our turtle and running out and grabbing some toilet paper on the way. You come to stores like ours for that communal shared experience.
So the pandemic, to get back to your question, at the end of it has made us a stronger and better business. Obviously we've suffered in some ways with the in-store retail, but we've learned how to adapt to that. The toughest thing with being closed at all is we do have vendors like Neca and Entertainment Earth for some things, but for the majority of what we sell, there's no vendor for vintage Thundercats. So the buying aspect of what we do is the most important thing we do. And having closed doors, that hurts.
Yeah.
Because then we have to hunt. And when the pandemic first started, everybody was afraid to see each other. So when you go to someone's house to buy a collection, we have to try and state some rules, like you need to bring your collection out to the driveway. We need to stay, it's made buying tough. Very tough.
Yeah, it was much easier in the warmer months because, like he said, folks could bring their stuff out to us outside, masked up and everything. But now, since it's starting getting colder, there's no one's dragging their Ninja Turtle collection out to their porch right now.
Definitely not.
I mean, I think like your comment about the pandemic making you like a better sort of toy store. I mean, I think there's a piece of that I apply to myself too. Like it's made me, I think, a better participant in the toy community, because I think toy collectors, whatever sort of role you fill in the ecosystem, you have a very specialized piece of knowledge, which is the way in which toys work. And I mean, I think that there are some lines that everybody has their specific veins of that knowledge, but like I acknowledge that like Target does not need my love or necessarily my hate. It doesn't matter. But for the local businesses near me, like there are things that I can actively do to support them. So I live basically where sort of on the sort of where two local toy stores kind of intersect. And I am there like sorting through their bins like on the weekend and just being like, one of them, 239 Play on City Island, had a bin of like just Star Wars stuff. And like, I don't know what this is. And I built like an entire Death Star playset from that bin because they had all the pieces, and that is now for sale, which will then make them some money.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is the kind of thing we can do. Like we can sort of say, hey, that thing you might not know that much about, we have that knowledge and we can help you, and we'll write an article and we'll talk about it and we'll like do that kind of thing to get money in your direction, because Target is fine, you might not be so fine.
We have learned that the community for the most part, the toy collector community that frequents mom and pop stores is amazing. The community has given us more than we could ever give back to them to support what we do. And I'm sure it's like that with your stores and in many places around the country, that it's a communal thing. Not for everyone. There are some solitary toy collectors that don't want to talk to anyone, but for the most part, we have learned that it's a beautiful toy community and a great support system that, you know, people want to keep this thing going.
We are so blessed, not just with our local community who cares about us, the global community, toy people in general. We were asked last year to participate in an Amazon show called The Toy Store Near You, from the same folks that did The Toys That Made Us on Netflix. And
I saw your episode.
oh, thanks.
Thank you.
It's great.
It's so weird. It's like to hear people say that. It's so strange. But being asked to be part of that, because we knew a guy who knew a guy, it's the community all coming together. And now people all over the world are messaging us saying that they saw our episode. And it's so cool that our community, it's not just local, it's not just the people we deal with every day. It's people all over the world
Well, you
coming
gotta say,
together.
the pandemic in general has really shown a light. It showed you who the bright stars are, right? For the people who really care about other people, and it's really put a spotlight on the people who don't. And I think there's a lot more bright stars. You know, I always tend to be optimistic, but it's really shown you that there are a lot of people who care. You know, not the people who wear the chin straps, but I'm optimistic after seeing how many, you know, people that do care and want everybody to come out of this better than they went into it. I hope that's the case.
I think this is a situation where all of us as content creators, and to Jonathan's point, and even with what the crew at Farpoint is saying, the fact is that we as creators should also make sure to help those small retailers, going back to what I said before, acknowledge their inefficiencies. And that's the problem. If you go to your local mom and pop toy store and they don't have an Instagram or they don't have a Facebook, and you want them to thrive and you want them to do more, hey, owner of mom and pop, did you ever think about starting an Instagram? Tell you what, you know, I'll start it and run it for you, and you give me 10% off a toy.
Yeah, if you're willing to go take pictures for NECA at 50 Targets, maybe you should be willing to do that for your mom and pop toy store.
You hit it right on the head. That's exactly it. See, we're way too many people are beholden to throwing support behind the big box store because they think that the big box store is the payday. No, it's not. You got to be on the ground floor of the retailers that are closest to you, because those are your resources. Going back to what Jonathan said before, you built the Death Star for that shop. Next thing you know, now what did you do? You helped them make money. So now all of a sudden they go, hey, you know, you're Jonathan, right? You did that Death Star for us. Next thing, the next line of that sentence should be, yeah, you know, you got a lot of things in here that you guys are really sleeping on. How can I help you get out there more? I really want you guys to succeed. I really want you guys to thrive. I love giving you my money. So what can I do to help you? And that's the problem. Going back to what I said before, people are quick to point fingers at Amazon or Walmart for killing Toys R Us. You know who killed Toys R Us? We did. Not us collectively, but the general public, because they said
Mitt Romney a little bit.
Yeah, I'm holding Mitt Romney accountable too.
Oh, no. What I'm saying is when Toys R Us got into the specialty market and started really carrying like the high-end stuff, it's like, I'm not going to pay $29.95 at Toys R Us for this thing. I'll just go to Target and pay $14.95. You see what I mean? Like we were part of that, but that's because nobody was sitting down from a customer standpoint and telling Toys R Us, like, listen, you guys are way too overpriced. This isn't helping. I think if there would have been more of a collective battle cry for a lot of that stuff, it would have shifted some of their business practices. I mean, they were far gone way before that, but I think that's a big problem too. It's like, we want to support these stores, but we got to call them out on their bullshit too. And I mean, this is from the biggest store to the smallest store. Like, how are you a comic shop without an Instagram or a Facebook? Or you know, you don't have a Google page for people to leave reviews for your store. And that's where I think we as media outlets, and this is across the board, not just the people in this panel, we got to go in there and say, hey, listen, I love your store. I think you guys are awesome. Your Instagram page sucks, or your Facebook page needs work. Or
Well,
hey,
with the mom and pop, I got to be honest, we try to do our best, and we are 3 people really.
Exactly.
But because of the pandemic, our partner's never around. But there's only so many hours in the day when you're a small business owner. There's only so many things you can do. We don't work 9 to 5, that's for sure. We work, sun up to sun down. So, some of those guys, maybe it's not their fault. Those people, it's not their fault that their Instagram sucks. They're maybe old school. They don't have time. But yes, lending a hand there.
That's what I'm looking for. Exactly that. Lending the hand. Because you know what? If that shop closes, that same person that could have lent a hand will be like, man, it sucks that blah, blah, blah toys closed. Well, did anybody know about them? What did you do to raise that awareness?
I chose the right group of panelists here to talk today because I asked you guys, the question was, how have you personally changed things and adapted? But here we are talking about small businesses that need the support just as much. So, this is clearly the right panel today to be talking to. And Julie, on that note too, I'd like to talk to you a little bit because, as you mentioned earlier, you haven't been able to put out any new product in 2020, but you have been doing other things in your social media. You have done some other different things with products. So how has IAMElemental adapted?
Well, it's interesting listening to everyone talk because actually it's been very difficult for me. Unlike some of you, I felt very uncomfortable marketing and promoting my toy during the pandemic. And I do attribute some of that to being in New York City and, it just being in what was considered the epicenter. And I kept saying, it's like, hey, people are dying, buy my toy. There was a real disconnect for me. I kept writing an email news, some sort of like email, and I'd be halfway through it and something more horrible would happen. Or, we've had some loss of our own within our team that really affected us in a profound way. And so the things that I'm most proud of for the past year for us have actually been our outreach. So there was a gentleman down in Maryland who was trying to help small businesses by selling their t-shirts. You would send your logo, he would sell the t-shirt for $20 and he would send you half of it, $10. And instead of sending it to me, I had him send it to a company that was a food, a New York City food company that was feeding the frontline workers. And so we put a courage t-shirt together. We did very well with it, but all of the profits went to feed frontline workers. And that felt like a small thing I could do. I couldn't do anything in the middle of this horrible thing. And then our best month of our year, quite frankly, this year was September, which is our childhood cancer awareness month, where we do a buy one, donate one of our large courage figure with kids with cancer. And I think it was our 4th or 5th year doing it. And, to a certain point, I'm begging the same old people, right? I'm my customer base to do this. And so I never know how it's going to go. And we had a really tremendous response this year. So again, it felt like I was giving back and doing my own small part during this terrible time. But I have absolutely 100% struggled. I have sent out very few emails. I felt like I have no idea what my audience is experiencing, what their difficulties are for me to kind of impose my viewpoint or my own, kind of marketing on them. And so for better or for worse, I've had a lot, to be quite honest, I put that out there on a LinkedIn post in maybe October. And I really got read the riot act, quite frankly, by the industry, who was like, what the hell's wrong with you? You should be, this makes no sense. And so it's my own thing that I have to deal with. But it was my experience. And I do, looking back on it, I really do attribute it to being in Manhattan and having that very direct experience with the pandemic itself. I also, this is completely non sequitur, but I wanted to talk about Toys R Us very briefly, because for us as a small, bootstrap startup, we were very careful about where we were trying to place our product and what we could even afford to do. And so Toys R Us was a really big deal for us when they finally decided they wanted to carry us. And the unfortunate thing is that literally the first order was shipped to Toys R Us weeks before they went out of business. And so we were doubly hurt by that, because not only did we not get paid for the product that we shipped, but then the holidays came and all of these third-party retailers started popping up with my product. And I couldn't understand where it was coming from. I was like, is my factory selling stuff out of their door? Like, what's going on? And so basically they killed my holiday business because they all were buying it, fire sale at Toys R Us and then flipping it on the market. And so not only did I not get paid for the product that I shipped to Toys R Us, but then someone else was able to sell it cheaper than I was. So that's my little Toys R Us anecdote on my experience as a small toy builder, but toy seller. But that's where I am right now. So I'm really hoping that 2021 is a better year for us in terms of my own comfort level with marketing and promoting. I really do miss an opportunity to see my customers at places like Comic Cons and toy fairs and things like that. As a small business, I think that that's really a huge thing for us. We always try to make our Comic-Con booth really welcoming and fun, and the same thing with our toy fair booth. We really treated toy fair almost like a Comic-Con, and it really helped me to build my brand over the last few years. And so it's the absence is definitely there. I don't know if I answered your question, but Matthew, but that's my answer, and I'm sticking to it.
Julie, if I could just hop on something you said there, though, I just want to say, so I teach at Queensborough Community College here in New York City, and I just want to tell you that IAMElemental is still part of my classes. It's still part of this pandemic. It's still part of everything that I do. So the idea that you are creating some sort of intrusion into the stuff that is really important, it's to me a fiction. You are part of the thing that is really important, because you're not selling toys. You are selling toys, but you're also selling literacy devices. You're selling empowerment. You're selling all of the things that I think people need right now. And I just want to say, from my perspective, as somebody who is just a fan, that you're, what you said about kind of feeling like you're not really sure about where your toys kind of place in this. To me, they are extremely important. So I just want to say that.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Jonathan has been such a loyal, wonderful supporter of our company from the very beginning. And so I appreciate it. Thank you.
So as we mentioned now, we have some hopes for 2021 and beyond. I'd like to hear from all of you what you guys want to see happen in this year and beyond for, I guess, I want to say the toy industry, because obviously that's what we're here to talk about today, but as well as the world. I mean, what do you guys want to see happen? What are your hopes for this year?
I hope that we don't have another fire or any other serious problems. That's my hope personally for 2021. I'd like to see things trend, I would go back to a little bit more normalcy and a little less like Dickensian drama.
I don't know if I'm dreaming here, but I'd like to see less division in our society. I know that's a much grander thing than talking about toys, but I think if that happened, it would just, the stress levels everyone is dealing with because of what's going on in the States here politically and with the pandemic and socially. There's just so much going on, and it's funny that we're talking about toys and it's such a small thing in that grand scheme of things. I don't know, man. I just want less stress with all that. We're gonna be here no matter what. We're gonna tough out the pandemic and all that, but I want to see less division with right in our own community and in a broader scale across the country. I'm hoping. It's crazy. I mean, it's the elephant in the room. It's the unspoken thing where there's so many issues from the politics of today. You know what I mean? That it's hard to talk around that and want other things. To me, it's the most important thing is that somehow we get more of us get back on the same page and stop with the division.
Yeah, I hope we can all play together. Like, seriously, I mean, that's we collect toys. I mean, I'm just over here transforming my hot rod. Like, I hope we all just play together. Like, I mean, that's it feels like a simple ask, but like there's a lot behind it, and then I think there's a lot that comes out of that, just that act of sitting down and playing.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I think what I want to see in all elements of our society, from the most important and civil unrest right down to just toy collecting and playing, is that I want us all to be less angry. I want toy collecting to be fun again. I want, for me, my business, which is toy news reporting and toy reviewing, I want that every time we post a new toy from a big guy or a small guy, that the first comment is, well, I won't be able to get it. Well, the scalper will get it. How about enjoy it? Show us how you present it on your shelves. How about the first thing isn't negative? I think we all, and it all stems from a place of anger and stress. We all know that. But I just want for 2021 and into 2022, where I'm confident that we will start seeing some healing by the end of the year and into 2022. I just want us to remember to have fun together again in all of our hobbies, and no one stop being against each other, and everything isn't a fight, and everything that's posted isn't an invitation for attack. And just remember to kind of, and it sounds schmaltzy and I understand, but just to return to this place of either neutral or positivity, and just stop being so mean to each other.
We need schmaltz.
Well, I think that's a really good point about the negativity and the positivity. Like at the beginning of this year, I had posted about sort of a challenge, right, for the new year, to instead of the first thing you do be negative about something. If you're negative about it, don't talk about it. Just
Right.
let it go, and
Yes.
instead find the things you're happy with and promote them. One of my favorite parts of the movie Ratatouille is when the reviewer talks about the best thing a reviewer can do is not, it's fun to be negative. It's always, you can come up with witty banter and you can come up with, slicing commentary. But you know what? The best thing to do is to find things, especially smaller companies and smaller items, and help them be promoted. Not because you got paid for it or because there was some kickback, but because it's actually great product and you found something that the rest of the world should really be able to appreciate. And that's, if we can get back to more of, let's stop worrying about tearing everything down. And I'm not even talking about the political side of things. I'm just talking about movies and TV and just the stuff we live with every day that we seem to be bent on tearing down instead of promoting the stuff we love.
Yeah.
And if I promote something I love, the first comment on it shouldn't be, well, that sucks.
Or like, you're X, Y, and Z for having this opinion. Or if somebody tries to defend you or agree with you, it's not, they don't get accused of being a white knight. It's like, how about we're just not crappy to each other? How about we just are reasonable people?
I think we need to really look at, I think criticism has a place. I think iron sharpens iron, but there's a place for civil discourse. So if you don't like something, you can say you don't like something, but have some substance behind your logic as to not liking it. I think that's a problem too. A lot of people have become a culture of gatekeepers. It's like, listen, you could like Star Wars and not watch every movie. You could like Star Wars and not know every character. You could like Star Wars and not own any toys from it. And you shouldn't be vilified for that. And I think that's the problem with a lot of what our interests are. People don't acknowledge the fact that there's good and bad in it. And the problem is that you can acknowledge the bad normally. You don't have to say, oh, your opinion sucks and you suck for liking it. Like, that's not the right way to do things. Be like, listen, I don't like it, but I don't like it because, the joints are too loose. Using toys as an example, the joints are too loose. You could say that and be perfectly at ease with that. And the person might say, well, maybe you got one that wasn't. Mine isn't because of this, and just build a conversation because of that. The problem is that so many of us want that unity, but we also want to protect our stuff that we're into. So a lot of people do that by being vicious or by gatekeeping, and you don't need to do that. You don't need to protect it because it's not being invaded. And that's what I think. I think too many times with toys, with comics, with everything else, we scare away new fans because, oh, you only like the MCU. You've never read this comic book. You don't know anything about this character. Instead of saying that, just educate the person, school them. Hey, listen, pick up this book. Hey, I got an extra copy of this omnibus sitting around. I'll send it to you. And I think that's really the issue. I think that in 2021 and beyond, I think that we can disagree, but we don't gotta be, excuse the language. We don't gotta be assholes about it. That's it. Like, we can disagree and be totally cool about it and move on. And I think that's the problem. Too many people, it's like I did a podcast a few years ago and I was talking about a young lady who was attacked, a journalist. And the third comment I got was, oh, there's this guy pushing this feminist agenda. And I said, listen, oh, I'm sorry that if it was my mother or my sister working in this field, I wouldn't want them to be attacked because their opinion is different from yours. I guess if that makes me a feminist, then fuck it. I guess I am, but that's the problem. I think that too many people are just caught up in that facet of just, to Loryn's point, just be a better human. I think in 2021 and 2022, we got to just push more of that. Just being a better human, period. It doesn't matter whether you're collecting toys or you're a movie buff, just be a better human. If you can't say it to your family, don't say it to someone else. And if you do say it to your family, then you may need to rethink that delivery system.
Going off of what Rich said, like remembering that like there are actual assaults on rights out there. There's actual racism, there's actual homophobia, there's actual transphobia. The fact that my Target doesn't have Firefly is not an example of any of those things.
Beautifully put.
I do think it's really funny that people there has been this rise in people getting upset over taste.
Yep.
Right. Which is, now taste has nothing to do with IQ. You can be a really smart person.
Yep.
Watch The Bachelor.
Okay. I like shitty movies.
I hope that's true.
I will not watch that.
Otherwise,
I refuse to watch it.
Taste depends on how I was raised and what I'm used to and it's about what I like. And it's a very, very personal thing. And because I like those things doesn't mean I'm stupid. And because you think they suck doesn't mean you're stupid. It's a difference in taste. But it's not like the issues that you just talked about, where it's homophobia or transphobia. Those are actual serious issues where there isn't really let's just play together. No, if you're against something like that's a different story. But if it's Star Trek versus Star Wars, we don't have to have a friendship ending battle over that.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. It's just a difference in taste, and people do really need to dial it back in all of that.
Yep.
It's very tough.
Yeah, and I will say to the point about representation, I do think representation is extremely important, and it is something that I talk about a lot. And I think that folks who talk about not seeing themselves in toys, I really value those pieces because they make me think about like, okay, what am I seeing out there? But that being said, like that's where the sort of maxim about like don't be that asshole, right, like comes into play. It's just like, yeah, like listen to what other people are telling you. Think about it for yourself. Like don't I'm sorry, I'm holding tweezers for some reason. Like don't write that off, and create a toy box or a toy playroom that is open to everybody. Yep. That is every identity, right?
So everybody, yeah, thank you so much for being part of this panel today. It's been a very great, very engaging conversation. I wasn't really sure where I was going to go, and we went to some really deep, interesting places that, it says a lot about toy collectors and what toys really mean to us. For some, toys are collectibles that we just put on a shelf. For others, it's a thing to play with, to let your imagination run wild. And for others, nowadays, it's to make a quick buck. But at the end of the day, toys are an escape from reality. And in a world like we live in today, especially with a pandemic running rampant, these are still very much needed things for all of us. So I want to thank each and every one of you for being a part of this today. And I'll just give you guys also a little moment to talk about yourselves one more time and promote yourselves. And I want to start with Michael, because Michael, I've been reading your website for so many years. I think you were probably one of the first toy review sites I ever looked at, and you remain to be one of the only toy sites I still look at to this day. I always trust your judgment. I'm always glad to be part of your Poppies award system. So Michael, how can folks learn more about what you're doing?
Well, you can check me out at mwctoys.com. You can always find me on Twitter at Michael Crawford. That was particularly interesting this week because the actor, Michael Crawford, something was going on. It was his birthday or something. And so all of a sudden my Twitter feed blew up with at Michael Crawford being mentioned in a million tweets. They'll probably be very disappointed when they follow me and see toys. Or you can find me on Facebook, Michael Crawford.
So Rich, you and I have been working together for many years now, and this past year, 2020, was the first time we actually really worked together on something with my podcast. So, thank you for being a part of Trek Untold and helping that grow, and for, of course, always being my tech guy. and you do a lot of great work as well, and you're into things. So tell folks about RageWorks and how to follow you.
RageWorks can be found pretty much by typing RageWorks into most social media platforms. Twitter, we're Rage_works. We're RageWorks on Instagram, official RageWorks on Facebook and YouTube, I believe. We have our RageWorks podcast network with a diverse amount of different podcasts covering different topics, including Matt's podcast Trek Untold. I have my podcast Toys and Tech of the Trade on there, and a few other great shows, and you can find that at rageworksnetwork.com. And pretty much most of the stuff that we talked about here is stuff that I'm very passionate about, so I'm glad I got to share the spotlight with so many of you and also meet so many of you, because it's always good to see fellow peers in this business, especially those that are just as passionate as myself and Matt are. So I'm grateful to be part of this conversation.
And on that same kind of note too, Loryn, you're someone who I've seen post all the time. We're in like so many Facebook groups together, but I've never actually, I don't think, ever talked to you once. I'm kind of a lurker. That's what I do. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Toy Wizards, and it's great to actually meet you as well finally. So tell our viewers today how they could follow what you guys are doing.
Thank you for that. It's funny you mentioned Lurker, because my main publication is called Pop Lurker, because we're always lurking. So you can follow Pop Lurker. You can follow me personally at Loryn Stone everywhere. You can follow Toy Wizards on social media or go to the website toy-wizards.com. And Jonathan, I just wanted to make sure that I thank you face to face for all of the amazing contributions that you do for Toy Wizards. You're one of the smartest people I know, so much in-depth knowledge about toys, always have an opinion that differs from mine and a perspective. So I just thank you and I respect that. So make sure that you guys are following Toy Wizards, and again, on YouTube, all the social medias. And I'm glad, Matthew, that you and I got to meet, because I've seen you as well.
And Jonathan, yeah, just to that note too, you are an encyclopedia of toy knowledge. Like whenever we talk, I'm just like amazed at how much you know. And it's been really distracting to do this interview because I'm looking at all the toys behind you and I want all of them. So yeah, Jonathan, how can folks learn more about what you're doing?
Well, first of all, thank you for that, Loryn. That means a great deal to me. Writing for Toy Wizards has just been such a great experience, and getting to bask in your brilliance has been fantastic. So I thank you for that. Toy Wizards, you can find my writing on there. You can also find my writing, some of it's on tor.com if you're familiar with the sci-fi publisher. I'm on Instagram at toy_circus. So I just recently completed doing Jurassic Park in all toys, and I put it to the music, so go watch it. I don't know. You can also find me on Twitter at jalexan. Facebook, just search my name, Jonathan Alexandratos. And if you're in the New York City area, I'm also a playwright, so that I have shows here when there are not deadly pandemics happening. And Matthew, to you, seriously, thank you so much for that wonderful compliment, and it's just been so great to be here and talk with you, as it always is. And come over and play. Nothing, I mean, healthily, like wear a mask,
Of course,
get a vaccine, and then let's have safe social time.
Like we didn't even see your
I'm
entire
saying.
collection in this video too, so that's gonna be for a whole other time. But yeah, great stuff there. And Justin, Penelope, I love your story. You guys know I went to visit you for the first time in 2019, and then the pandemic happened, and I haven't been able to come back. So, I'm so happy you guys are doing the virtual sales, and you're pretty much where all my money goes to these days. So, stimulus, Farpoint.
We appreciate that.
So, how can folks follow more about what you guys are up to, and how could also folks check out your virtual sales?
We are all across the web at Farpoint Toys. That's 2 T's in the middle, Farpoint Toys, all one word, farpointtoys.com. But we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, eBay. We're all over the place. We do a lot on Facebook with our live sales, like you said. You can find those on Sunday afternoons at 5 o'clock Eastern time on our Facebook page. We've been doing a lot on our YouTube as well, doing a lot of content. And we actually have a VIP group. You can check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/farpointtoys. As a matter of fact, later today, we're doing a free monthly claim sale for all of our VIPs. Free stuff for people. So it's cool to check out.
Guys, I just want to say that this has been a great panel, and we are honored to have been on this panel with many of you. You guys are all very smart and very knowledgeable, and it's been great meeting you. This was really a good time.
Julie, you're one of those people who I always make sure to see at Toy Fair every year. Ever since the first year, in fact, I've been checking out the booth, and I'm so proud of what you've done, what you've accomplished with these toys. I say past years I've been saying this to you. We've seen Hasbro try it. We've seen Mattel try doing what you did first, what you pioneered, and they gave up, and you're still here. So congratulations on that. And for folks who are not familiar yet with IAMElemental, how can they follow you?
Thank you so much, Matthew. Yes, just like Jonathan, you are one of my longtime supporters, and you know how grateful I am to you for all of that support. And, just before I say where you can find me, I would theorize that part of the reason that we're still here and they're not is because we were trying to create an action figure that appealed to everyone. We weren't trying to put it in a little box. While she is a female action figure, she is super cool and fun to play with and forward thinking in her design and engineering. And so we are very blessed and lucky to have amazing collectors like you who have supported us and who have promoted us along the way. And I can't overstate that. But for anyone who wants to discover IAMElemental, we are on all social media at IAMElemental Toy, and we have direct to consumer at IAMElemental.com. If you sign up for our newsletter, you get a 20% discount on your first order. So please do it, because we'd love for you to try us out and see what you think. And we welcome all opinions and all viewpoints on it. So please do share with us what you think about us once you take a little look. So thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm sorry I was running late. This was really wonderful. And I look forward to touching base and checking out everyone who I don't know yet. You guys are amazing.
And one more time, thank you all for being part of this panel. I've never ever done a panel before ever in terms of moderating. I've been to plenty, but never moderated, so I didn't know what was going to happen. You guys were all wonderful, excellent discussion here. So again, thank you so much. A hand of applause for all of you. Really, it's been real great. And everybody out there who's watching, thank you for checking out this panel. Do make sure to follow everybody here that's chatting with us today. And of course, stick around because there's more nerd news today. Toy Fair 2021 coming right up.